it going, everyone? Welcome to Konnex TV, episode 35. I'm with the incredible William Bruner. He's a serial entrepreneur and inventor, a very dear friend of mine. He's a very special guest. He's really well known in the community. You guys are lucky we got this guy on the show. He's one talented person. I'm really looking forward to interviewing him. Will, how are things going with you?
I often say when people ask me how I'm doing, I have 2 feet, 2 hands, can see, smell, and breathe. Anything else is extra. So, I'm grateful, of course, to be here and thankful for the opportunity. So thank you, Mr. Course, for having me run.
Awesome. Well, yeah. So, we've seen you in the community around here in the entrepreneurships, and you've done so many incredible things in this world. You did give such a good impact and value to people. We're just kind of curious, like your story, how you got started, the origin story, things you're working on, and how you arrived to be such an incredible person.
Well, Forged in steel. I kid. I'm the product of a military family. I'm the oldest of 5 and the only boy. And coming, of course, from the product of a high-ranking military officer, perfection was drummed into me. I was expected to be perfect, and still to this day, very much so, am expected, of course, to be perfect. I don't remember getting type of acknowledgement or commendations, of course, as a child. We're expected, of course, to be excellent, and that just kind of transition, of course, from childhood on into professional and the continuation of such. However, with that hardness, I noticed a lack of softness. So I was very I decided, of course, very early on that I want to be very intentional, of course, in regards to having a bit of tough but more tough love, right? So all, of course, companies, of course, I'm associated with, all my mentees, my business partners, etc. I want to be able to have fun and enjoy one another's company, but I also, of course, hold them, and I expect them to hold me to a very high bar. But I want it to be done, of course, in a loving, jovial, fun way. I feel as though, of course, when individuals, of course, are enjoying one another's, of course, company, you're gonna get the best results, the best end product, the best inputs, and then, of course, ultimately the best outputs, right? So that's pretty much, of course, how it works. So excellence from a very young age. But I think that, if we, quite frankly, my grandmother several years ago, who was like my second mother, who I have a lot of respect and admiration for, she apologized to me due to a lack of course, not to Dr. Phil your run, as far as lack of like physical, of course, love and saying I love you. My grandmother was a former professional opera singer, classically trained. My father was a young little Black boy growing up in the Bay Area, accomplishing a lot of things, but didn't get a whole lot of loving and nurturing. She had him at a very young age. So she didn't really know how to really show love, give love, etc., and be kind of close to him. She did the same thing, of course. My father did the same thing to me. I remember, of course, vividly. I was in my mid to late 20s. My father and I had gotten together for a lunch. He went to hug me, and I jumped, right? And I was like, "Hey, you trying to rob me, Dad?" It's just because I never in my life, up until my mid to late 20s, had any type of physical touch, and my father telling me he loved me. I knew that they loved me because I never wanted for anything. We grew up in gated communities. I'm private school educated, both in Europe and, of course, here. So, I never had to want for anything other to that. But the loving and nurturing, of course, is very important, and I make sure to show that in all things which I build. My partners, my mentors, my mentees. One of the first things I do, I think I spoke with you recently the night, or I recently implemented a thing with my male business partners, mentors, and mentees, where I have a thing called a head check, because I want to make sure, of course, that my people, of course, are good. If you're not good, of course, physically, mentally, psychologically, holistically, then we can't progress, of course, the business. But anyway, I'll get off my soapbox, sir. This is your interview. You're running things. I'm just here, of course, just contributing, sir.
Oh, that's so great. We're so glad you shared your story. I mean, your family stuff is very important, especially your grandmother. And you really resonate with a lot of our audience who maybe their dads and moms weren't present in their life. Maybe they didn't love them enough. And, how do you overcome stuff like that and obstacles and how that defines you as a person? We're really more interested in getting to know the real Will Bruner. Like, what did you study in school? How did you start your career? And a lot of people are employees stuck in jobs. They want to make the jump to entrepreneurs. So what was it like in your career shaping, and then you made the jump yourself into entrepreneur, and why did you make that thing? So kind of a 2-part question.
Of course, not a problem at all. Well, I think, quite frankly, if I say it, in as better terms as I possibly can, I was groomed per se. While my father was ascending, of course, in the military, as far as he ranks, as far as an officer and into a political arena, I should say, political career, he was also very entrepreneurial. So he was with A.L. Williams, Primerica, did Amway, Quickstar, phone cards. My father used to say to me, of course, we started going to seminars and business events when I was in middle school, right? So let's just say that we never took a vacation unless it's associated to business. So it's always, of course, business seminars, business conventions. I myself, as the only boy and the oldest, I was expected to take the mantle, right? So we never listened to music in the car. It's always, of course, programming as far as business productivity. Rich dad, poor dad, all those things I was immersed in from the wee age of probably 12, 13, 14 on up, of course, through high school on and later on. And one of the things, of course, my father used to say to me all the time as he was progressing, of course, through the military, he said to us all the time as well, is job stands for just over broke, right? So, when you're programmed and programmed and programmed and programmed in that merit capacity for a greater part of course your formative years, it's hard, of course, to go into corporate America and actually be able to stay there, right? So up until my freshman year in high school, I wanted to be a fighter pilot like my father. I then said, you know what, this whole like 13 school thing and like 12 years is for the birds. I want to be able to live where I want to live and decide on the future. A lot of respect for the military, still do a lot of course support of the veteran community. But I said, you know what, I'm interested, of course, in pursuing something else. So I said, perhaps, of course, law, international business. Those were the things that I looked, of course, to forge a path in. As far as in school, with the interest starting in speech and debate in high school. So I said, you know what, this law thing, political science, maybe something, of course, of interest. But then got done with school and fell into telecom, right? Because I answered an ad while I was in school. I was good old selling good old Kirby vacuum cleaners door to door, right? And taking home some checks every now and then. It's $2,000 and $3,000 of course a week. And when you're in your teens, you think that you're the king of the world, right? But let's just say that when I got I was been in Kirby and they'd offered me an office. I was running vans of people that were people twice my age, et cetera, and proving, of course, to be successful. I said, you know what, selling vacuum cleaners is not the coolest and sexiest thing in the world. Let me see, of course, what else is possibly, of course, out there. So dating myself a bit around, I looked in the Washington Post in the paper. Yes, this is before the advent of Craigslist and the internet was just, emerging, right, guys? So I'm of the Stone Age. So don't beat me up too much, as of course, is a relic. I answered an ad for technology sales. So it was a technology sales ad in Northern Virginia. This is circa around 2000. Actually, wasn't around around 2000, and came on in, met director of sales, and he said, Mr. Bruner, you have absolutely no experience at all in technology and telecom sales, but if you sold Kirby's and you were successful, you can sell anything. I said, okay. So I came on in the first month. I did over 700% of quota. I continued to average 500 to over 1,000% of quota for the 4 years I was there. I was the top producer reps in the whole United States. And I went from kind of being a rough diamond as far as Kirby sales to being more of a fine-tuned and fine-combed, of course, in technology sales, right? So that was kind of my foray, my transition, of course, from from school to corporate. And then in 2004, 2005, the tech boom happened. I lost a considerable amount of money as far as chargebacks due to .coms that had gone under. I briefly took a director of sales position, but I started my very first company in 2005. Right, import export company in China. That company, unfortunately, we shuttered. As we know, with first companies, you have no idea what the heck, of course, you're doing. Brief stint back to corporate. I was regional vice president, of course, for Magellan, big GPS company. Again, date myself before GPSs were all in all the cars back in 2007. But again, did that for about a year, and I said, you know what, it's working for somebody else, is not for me. And I have not had an employer under a W-2 since 2008.
Was it fearful going through that process of a corporate to employee? Because a lot of entrepreneurs are looking to maybe make that jump, but it's too scary. So how did you push through that barrier?
Well, let me stop you first and say, was it fearful? Is it fearful? Right? I still, of course, am of the mindset of, obviously, if I don't get up and I don't produce and I don't contribute, then, nothing, of course, is incoming. Right? Now, you can have, of course, passive things, but you still have to have some type of course, passive activity in them. Now, to your point in regard to from a fearful standpoint, I remember back in 2008, circa, my father was just being appointed, his first presidential appointment at NASA. He's a former assistant administrator of NASA. We were talking briefly, and he said, I have a lot of respect for you for doing the business ownership thing, and going totally away from the world of W-2 and being self-sufficient and self-sustaining. Because I myself am very, very off-putting, and I can't see myself doing that right now at this stage, of course, of my life. So that said a lot. As far as for me standpoint, you know, I always say a job is something you have to do, or work is something you choose to. I was just continuing to build a sense of community and trying to find and navigate and do things that I enjoyed. And I just happened to fall upon making money, right? And I think, of course, that when you're younger, it's very, very important, of course, to go through that exploratory phase and do as many things as possible to find out, of course, where your passion is, right? Because, a check, of course, is great. We all require a roof over our heads, clothes on our back, and food in our belly. And anything else, of course, is extra, right? But unfortunately, in this world, we were often, of course, to program to really start enjoying life when we're not physically able to, right? So you talk about, of course, when you look back, of course, I say all the time to people, which, of course, I work with my mentees, my mentors, business partners of mine. Some of them are, incredibly, of course, successful. I say, when you look back on your deathbed, you're not gonna look back and say, hey, I wish I'd have bought that expensive luxury car, that expensive piece of jewelry. You're gonna say, I wish I'd gone running with the bulls in Spain, gone to the Great Barrier Reef, Machu Picchu, right? So life, of course, is about, of course, experiences, of course, not things. So, but in order to be able to have experience, you need to have, of course, more flexibility, right? So being able to make sure you find and have that thing is incredibly important. But also, to your point in regards to how to make that jump, again, being myself, there's not a whole lot of internet out there. It's just all through network, right? Energy is real. Making sure to surround yourself with like-minded people, right? I say, and I was actually talking to someone on my network, of course, the other day, and I've been talking recently, is sometimes you have to do a reset every couple of years, right? The friends, of course, that served you a couple of years ago may not serve you today. So if you are not, of course, mission aligned and objectively aligned in regard to what you're looking to, of course, accomplish, the weekend, just saying, hey, let's go party, let's go do this, and so on and so forth. And you're saying, I got to go to the office, I got to work on my project, got to do this RFP or RFQ for clients. You're saying, why? You know, assess, of course, not saying remove them entirely for life, but assess as far as how much you want to have in their life, and how much you want to have them in your life. I'm of the mindset, and I say all the time, if a person does not give something to you, they shouldn't be around you. And I say not give something as far as say monetarily or physically. I'm referring to giving you something and benefiting you something from a mental standpoint, from a psychological, from an emotional standpoint, from an energy standpoint, from a positivity standpoint. What is their purpose, right? And often, of course, that even often includes family. And we love our family. I love my family, and I'm sure myself, like yourself and many members of the audience, I've had my fallouts, et cetera, and so on and so forth. And I'll always, of course, support and root for my family, of course, close from afar. But sometimes we have to be mindful, of course, of keeping them also at bay, be mindful of sharing, of course, accomplishments, of course, with them as well, because we may not often yield the results and the output that we expect for our friends and family that we expect that will uplift us and motivate us. And, it can put us in a dark place.
Wow, just amazing. There's so much there to unpack. I don't even know where to start, but I mean, I agree with you on all points. I want to go back to what you touched on regarding community and some of the mentees you have, because this is an issue I found in a lot of people kind of get started, and even the event we went to. But that word proximity is power is it's a very good phrase. Just curious, when you were coming up, how did you get involved in the circles and the groups that you're involved in, especially when you just started and you're really not known yet? So how do you kind of move up the ranks, and how do you join communities and stuff, and be part of groups like yourself?
Of course. So I'll dial it back and simplify it. We by nature are all egotistical creatures. Everybody loves compliments, right? So regardless, of course, of what we've achieved, how many compliments we have in our account, how many degrees we have behind our name, Esquires, JDs, MBAs, MBs, whatever, and so on and so forth, a compliment goes very far. So how I was able to really start to level up my playing field per se, and my network was, quite frankly, through the space of LinkedIn. Right. LinkedIn has been very much my wingman, my Robinette, whatever you want to say these days. And in regard to, I read and consume a lot. I read between 20 and 30 publications every single day. Very, very high functioning. I watch multiple TVs and channels simultaneously every day, CNBC, Bloomberg, and so on and so forth. I, as I was watching and engaging articles, seeing stuff online, Bloomberg, et cetera, and so on and so forth, I saw people, of course, of interest to me. I started reaching out to them on LinkedIn. Hey, I saw you in this interview. I was very, very impressed with what you're doing. I'm working on X, Y, and Z. I welcome the opportunity, of course, to keep you apprised of what I'm doing. Right. But making sure, of course, the fact that it's something relevant to what they're doing, right? So making sure that it was always tweaked, it wasn't, of course, generic, so it had a linchpin, didn't seem too much like a bot, right? And basically, of course, from that standpoint, I started getting a conversion rate and people reaching back out to me probably early on 45 to 50%. Now my conversion rate is probably around 65, 75%, right? So, if you look at, of course, the breakdown and the makeup of my LinkedIn connections, I'd probably say 65 to 75% of them are C-suite executives, right? 10% or so are senior to mid-level managers, and only 5 to 10% of them are junior individuals, right? So that's allowed me to really, of course, level up. And then, of course, once you have them, you have it captured, of course, a top audience. You have to do something with it, right? So then it's a matter, of course, of putting out high quality, of course, contact about yourself, responding, of course, to people, of course, your network that are doing things and being genuine and sincere. And you will start to see traction and engagement, of course, in your profile, reach out, opportunities, debt, et cetera, and so on and so forth. I was actually telling somebody the story of the day because I recently got tapped to be part of a project for a country that I've been consulting for quite some time in the startup space. In regards to my very first term sheet, came from someone I didn't know off of LinkedIn who reached out to me for $500,000, right? And then from there, a venture capital firm down in Louisiana, of all place, from a VC from West Coast of Silicon Valley offered for me to come on down and do a pitch and express, of course, an interest in the possible 7-figure course follow up, right? That all came from LinkedIn. Didn't know the person, hadn't met the person. Also, one of my companies I had in the wearable technology space met, this is through cofounderlab.com, website is no longer around. We've met, we built a relationship in around, of course, through LinkedIn. He and I built an entire wearable technology company. I'd never met him in person for over 9 months. I was sending him electronics in Denver, Colorado. And we built a company. We had a tap by Bluetooth Prestigious Group as one of the top 24 most innovative companies in the world. Without even, of course, meeting him, of course, in person. So anyway, all that to say, LinkedIn has been a very, very, incredible, of course, tool. And I'm a big proponent, of course, of using, of course, LinkedIn to really scale, of course, your business if used in a very, very intelligent, of course, way. I'm not, this is no knock, of course, to those who do, in fact, of course, do this. I don't subscribe to the LinkedIn, the LION. I'm not a LinkedIn open networker. I don't accept, of course, everybody. And the reason being is I feel as though that I've been able to create a very high quality course network, and the people have entrusted me to allow them to be welcome into the network, and I'll be very, very cautious in regards to the quality of people, of course, that I have around me, and of course around commensurately, of course, around them.
Yeah, that's really amazing. Well, I mean, the people say your network is your net worth. The people you associate yourself. So you've done such an exemplary way of doing that, and that's what we applaud you for that. You're just someone
Thank you.
that people look up to. So to go back, I think I've kind of pinpointed you have excellent habits. As we were at this event yesterday too, Todd mentioned that also, a friend, your habits. And that's something also that a lot of successful people talk about, the habit that you have. So kind of curious if you could dive into how did you develop these habits, the reading, the other stuff, and also curious, what's your morning routine? Do you just do the meditation thing? What's that? And then at the end of the night, how are you winding down? Are you setting goals? That's kind of what a lot of people are looking up to you to see. Maybe they can copy your habits to get your success. So what are they?
So a couple of habits. One of my business partners, Mr. Todd Hughes, or to plug, of course, there, my friend and partner, of course, in business. And I say I don't have any business partners. All my partners are partners in business, right? And I think, of course, those words are very, very important, of course, to use, right? Don't just say business partner or partner in business, because I don't want to downplay any type of person, of course, involvement in what, of course, I'm doing. But one of the habits, of course, we were talking about tonight was in regards to my follow-up as far as after we go to an event and I'm meeting a person. I'm very, very methodical. For example, case in point, yesterday, I already followed up with every single person I met yesterday. All right. So every single person I met before, of course, I went to see has already received a personal message from me with regards to the course event. Right. And the reason I also do that is I do it two-pronged. I send a message to them via LinkedIn. Right. So when they add me, if years go by or 6 or 9 months, I need to refer back to how I know this person. I can open the LinkedIn message. I can see the date. I can see the event, meditation. I know, okay, I know the date in which I met them. I know where I met them. Right. But in addition, of course, to doing, of course, to LinkedIn, I also send a follow-up email message, personal email message with a hyperlink, because not everybody's as active on LinkedIn as I am. All right. Not everybody, of course, has the app. Right. But I want to entice them, of course, to add me. I want to see, of course, that I've taken the time, of course, to add them, and so on and so forth. and go in that regard. And I'm also very, very keen on making sure that any high level, very, very high quality conversations that were in fact, of course, had, that we do in fact in the next 7 to 14 days, we get together for a coffee and a one-on-one to continue, of course, to build upon the conversation, see what opportunities, of course, exist, right? And one thing, of course, in regards to, how we work and how I operate is, I'm not a maroon island. I'm not totally, of course, self-sufficient, but I never ask for anything, right? I've learned, of course, that business and high quality, of course, relationships are built when a person is able to see who you are and what you're capable of, before, rather than just going up to them and saying, I need this, I'm working on this, can you help me with this, of course, and so on and so forth, right? Because when it's much more natural, right, then it's much more sustainable and much more qualitative. Because people are like, you know what? You may not have this skill set, but because I like you, you should be in this firm. But because I like you, you should meet this person. Because I like you, we're gonna take a chance on you, right? So, I say all the time as well that, I don't care how many comedy, how many degrees you have. If I can't have a libation with you or a non-alcoholic libation with you, coffee or tea, I don't want you around me. Energy is real. I'm a big, big believer in energy. Aaron, you spent some time, of course, with me and my partners, my friends, and I'm sure you noticed one of the common denominators was we were smiling the whole time. We're joking, we're jovial. Despite, of course, all that, these are individuals that have accomplished and are continuing to accomplish, of course, a lot. These are not individuals, of course, that are, no offense to those who are hanging on the basement, eating chicken out of, out of a bucket all day and drinking 2 liter bottles of pop or shots or a Coke. But these are, PhDs and PharmDs and VPs who are in communicating, working with the top 40 banks, of course, on Capitol Hill and so on and so forth. But we get together, we talk business, talk shop, but we have fun, right? And we generally, of course, enjoy one another's presence and company and energy. And from there, it's amazing what we're able to do and accomplish, right? So that's a bit about, of course, in regards to, say, from a habit, of course, standpoint. Now, you asked me in regards to my routine. So, I got to try and be looking good in suits like you, sir, Arun. So I already got up this morning. I typically start the day on the bike, a studio bike in front of my TV, going through the news. I use an aggregator called Haystack because I want to see snippets of everything. I'm a firm believer of the person who wins is not the person who's the smartest, it's the person who knows the most, right? I'm typically able to win in many regards because I typically know more than my opponent. There's very little subject matters that I cannot discuss and talk about in an intellectual and intelligent way, right? Now, I'm not talking deep, granular, but high level. And I say that in the sense, of course, of, being able to do that makes you much more of a formidable, of course, opponent, right? And also an ally because you can engage, of course, to everybody, be it fashion, be it current events, be it movies, be it whatever it may be, right? So Haystack I like, I'm a big proponent, of course, of that. I start with Haystack and I'll go to local news, I'll do Bloomberg section, and it gives me 2 to 3 minute snippets of all top stories, right? So I'm able to see exactly what's going on locally, nationally, internationally, business, finance, etc. Right? I do that also. I have my iPad on my studio bike. I'm going through, of course, my email for the day. I'm seeing my calendar. I'm making sure that I'm responding, of course, to any, of course, things that are high priority as far as text, emails, make sure I know the day as far as what call to have. If I can stay in my skivvies because I have audio calls or video calls, or if you put on the jacket and actually shave and also be in a shower, take a shower, of course, for you. And then then I push on. Then, I decide, of course, where I have to go and go from there. I typically don't go to the office. I'm a person who doesn't, I don't enjoy working from the office, in a 9 to 5. I have access to some beautiful offices, private office spaces. I typically only go there for meetings, right? So I only go to the office, of course, to take advantage of the conference activities. I enjoy being, during the day in spaces such as open spaces, such as coffee shops, and quite frankly, often just working from a home office during the day, right? And just using my office, just of course for meetings, for dev sessions, for iteration sessions, and so on, of course, and so forth. My average work week is around 120 hours a week. And I don't want to hear people go, oh my goodness, what is going on with that? When you're sleeping, I'm working. When you're working, I'm working. We think I'm working, I'm working. But the reason is, I also service clients, partners, mentees, globally, right? Be it in California, be it in South America, be it over in Korea and Asia, and of course, and so on and so forth. So, I'm all about, of course, making sure that I'm available to accommodate that. In regards to, say, from a standpoint, of course, of meditation, I don't really meditate. My outlet, of course, for stress release is working out as far as physical training and also cycling. But also, and I tell my people, I do this as well, as I take at least 5 minutes every day to totally decompress. I say it's very, very important, perhaps, of course, in the middle of your day, to go ahead and take 5 minutes to go into a dark space, a closet, remove all phones, all noise, all light, and just enjoy the dark. it's amazing what a dark and silent place can do just for you. And it provides an incredible just reset and refocus to come back out, of course, totally reinvigorated and go from there. After, of course, kind of my wind down. What's my wind down? If I'm big into, frankly and candidly, my wind down typically is my laptop and MacBook is on my chest, and I'm passed out, of course, there, and then stumbling, of course, to the bed. So I don't necessarily have necessarily wind down activity type thing. I look at, of course, my calendar just so I can know what time I'm starting, of course, my day the next day, meeting, if I'm going to be on a day trip, of course, with the partners. For example, the other day, a few of my business partners, I was fortunate enough to be invited up to Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, to the Capitol to meet up with various members of the Congressional Caucus. And, had to make sure I was up for that, and traffic, and of course, and so on and so forth. But I don't really necessarily have any type of wind down activities. Occasionally just some green tea, right? To make sure, of course, that the third, of course, is good relaxation, have some polyphenols in me, and our honey tea. Honey, because I do a lot of talking, is good for the throat as well. So I want to make sure, of course, that my throat, of course, is always, of course, good to go. So hopefully I answered your question in some way, shape, form, or manner, sir.
Oh, yeah, it was so great. I was really curious. Your habits, I think, define you, how you do in your life, and you're talking about wellness and stuff. So I'm glad that you're taking care of yourself. Well, we need more of you. We need a lot more of you the next coming year. So to go back also, the following up with people, I could think of a really nice platform that can help you follow up with people faster, Konnex, which is awesome. So my own plug, great software. You guys got to check it out. Okay, so
And
going back.
that's how you and I met so many years ago, approaching, I think we met circa 2014, 2015. So now approaching, of course, a decade. So, he plugged, of course, Konnex. So I'll speak about, of course, kind of the origin story. So this young whippersnapper, Mr. Ryan, was running around, and we were both up and coming in the startup space, still trying to fill ourselves out and find our place, per se. So he was building, I was building. We're crossing paths multiple times, and he was looking, of course, to build Konnex, and said, "You got to get on this. Why are you not on this? Join this. Forget LinkedIn. This is better than LinkedIn." And energy, of course, is real. Past month to 2 months ago, we happened to serendipitously attend an event where I'm on the board of a company that he came to, and he's like, "Mr. Bruner," and it was, love it for second sight again, right? And we've been fast friends again, ripping and roaring, and here we are.
Yeah, it's just such an amazing story. I'll never forget this story. So yeah, just had to plug myself. And man, this is just such a great interview we're having. To go back, another thing I wanted to know, because a lot of my success also came from hiring a coach, a business coach, and an actual mentor. I paid him several thousands of dollars. Everyone knows my story, Bob Proctor, Tony Robbins. So just curious, just to go back, and then I want to move on to a project. But did you ever get involved in any type of these personal development programs where you hired like a mentor? And then if not, who was your mentors? Your parents? And then the third part is, now you're the mentor menteeing people, and they want, we want to talk about that too. So three-part question.
Of course, not a problem at all. So I've never, my I, I've never had a mentor. I've only had aspirations. Only had inspirations, right? My inspiration and my drivers have been my family, and large part, of course, my mother, my father, and my grandmother, right? In regards to working to prove something to them constantly, right? As far as to make them happy. We all know, of course, parents, no matter how old we are, we're always trying to make them happy, right? So that has been my constant driver. And still to this very day still is, right? We never do enough. I remember some years ago, I'll never forget this conversation, probably circa 2016 to 2017. I visited my grandmother, and my father was there. He was in town for some meeting on Capitol Hill at the White House. That's what he does all the time. I said, "Yes, Dad, someday I want to be, one of the most influential, business people you've never heard of." And he just says, he just kind of chuckles. "No, like, I wish you the best, son. You can do it." Nothing like that. It just was a very smug. I was like, "Oh, okay." So that, of course, what I say, of course, all the time to people is, those type of things, of course, can be killers, or those can be motivators, right? So, a person, of course, who may lack and have the fragility, of course, of mind, and not strong enough to push through, will be like, "Oh my goodness, my parent or who I love did not have the faith in me to be able to persevere and succeed." Whereas I'm like, I'm gonna level up. I'm out here of course to show you. So they have been the single biggest motivators for me in trying to push forward. I'm also, reading. Yeah, I do in fact, of course, thoroughly, of course, enjoy reading when I get to get the time. I typically my 20, 30 things I read, of course, every day and often are periodicals and publications and white papers. But where have our leaders gone, right? Leah Coca, Chrysler, talent is not enough, right? I think, of course, we see that and hear that often in regards as well. You can have all the quote unquote, if you're a God fearing or God believing person, all the God giving talents and natural attributes, but unless you properly, of course, condition them, hone them, refine them, adapt or die, they're all irrelevant. I mean, you look at, of course, let's look at athletes and athletics as far as, Greg Odens of the world, Zions, who are incredible talents at high school and collegiate level, or are able to transcend that talent into the NBA because they lack the proper nutrition, conditioning, mindset, circle, of course, and so on, of course, and so forth. So that's been a bit in regards to that, say, from, who's pushed me and inspired me. I also, as a side note, I've been doing image consulting and running EQ workshops myself, where individuals, of course, come to me and come to a 3 or 4 day totally immersive, of course, where I teach them, of course, soft skills, importance, of course, of small talk, how to build rapport, of course, and so on and so forth. And from an image consulting standpoint, also assist individuals in building confidence with a potential suitor as well, because I often feel I'm of the mindset often when you are more comfortable, of course, engaging a potential, of course, suitor, your business, of course, that you're already doing, of course, is going to be able, of course, to level up. But to your point, I never engaged any of those individuals. Don't get me wrong, I've watched and I look at them, of course, from afar, but I've never I haven't had kind of the need. I've been able to motivate myself and to push myself and to level myself up and or to find, of course, my people and my mentees around me to push me to continue to level up, of course, and go to the next level.
Yeah, amazing. Yeah, some people are look out and they reach coaches, but some people are self-taught like yourself, and you had a really excellent family to help you, and you had a good support system. So that's great. You're able to produce that. And now I think also you're in that position where you're the mentor. I've met some of your mentees, and they're all looking up. That was honestly, well, that's what I was really impressed by you, is the fact that you brought me to some of your events and your mentees were there. So could you talk about, like, how did you get involved in kind of that program? And for people that are listening and they want to work with you and they've identified you as you are their guy and they want to be part of your thing. So what kind of programs or services do you offer, and how does that work? Can anybody even get close to you anymore?
Of course. So, first and foremost, I often say that the greatest compliment one could ever give me is a time in the air, right? So, I don't have the type of course, I am, will always be accessible and attainable, right? I refuse, of course, to not be to be the person that you can't touch, you can't reach, right? But, I am only one person, no matter what. We only have 24 hours, of course, in a day, 365 days in, a year, 7 days a week. I can only do so much because in addition, of course, to being able to contribute and help others, I'm also building some operations, right? But I also realize, of course, the importance of the fact that giving a few minutes of time is often the determinant between if a person will do and they will not, right? So I'm a firm believer in bad things happen when there's lack of hope and opportunity, right? So, I'm a member of Build.org, I'm a member of Christian Father Men and Boys, I'm a member of Veterate, many things in which, of course, I'm a part of from a volunteering, mentoring, and uplifting, of course, side of things is supporting the veteran, disabled, underserved community, of course, underserved communities founders, right? So I have a non-visible disability. My father, is a foreign, as a military veteran. My family has been, for the most part, represented in every single war since the Civil War, with the exception of Vietnam and Iraqi freedom. And again, and I'm also an underrepresented founder, of course, myself, right? As a person of color and a minority as well. So as far as how I found, of course, the mentors that are currently, the mentors, I should say, of course, around me, many of them, of course, and just being out and about, and quite frankly, often, of course, referred to me, right? So my business partners, my current mentee, et cetera, say, hey, this person has an idea, needs some assistance, and so on and so forth. I recently, of course, have been likened, of course, to Godfather. Hopefully, Godfather, good way. One of my other mentees called me Thanos, and I said, "Hey, we know what happened to Thanos, right?" So hopefully, the small, minute, good heart part of Thanos that had very, very good intentions, but ended up, let's say being, hopefully everybody's seen it, but decapitated, no longer, of course, is here. but they're referring, of course, the ability to be able to execute in the manner which, of course, that I am able to, but also being able to really genuinely care and being able to help and level up for the most part any business out there, right? I'm very rare in events, so we all know from business standpoint, most people, of course, are specialists at one thing or maybe, of course, two. I'm quite business agnostic, and this is kind of a bold thing to say, but I can typically, of course, assist in the scaling of any business in the industry. And that's often just because I have a broad and vast, of course, Rolodex, and I pretty much have, at least, of course, some type of superficial knowledge in regards to whatever, of course, you're working in, be it ed tech, civic tech, fintech, wearable tech, IT, whatever. And even if I don't know, I have some resources in around that space that can be of value, of course, to you as far as from partnerships to capital to advisors, of course, whatever it may be. But to your point, to your direct question, anybody can get a hold of me. I can be emailed directly. I don't know if I'm able to share that with you, if I can share that here or not. But anybody can email me directly at william@tandemsuccess.com. So TANDEMSUCCESS.com. So obviously, of course, because success comes in tandem, right? So that's why you see that call to action. I want to continue to reverberate and be the ethos, of course, of who I am, how I work, and how I operate.
Okay, that's awesome. I'm going to include the link for everyone to get a hold of you. And, Will, I'm just so glad we had you on the show. We're going to wrap it up soon, but we just want to end with a few other questions too. Current things you're working on right now, like the current actual state of Will Bruner's life, current projects you're working on, and then biggest setbacks or learning lessons, and then biggest wins recently you're doing.
Of course. So, thing working on setbacks and lessons. Is that correct? All right. So, thing which I'm working on. Presently working on a new outdoor hospitality, of course, ecosystem. So think of a WeWork meets Weston for the outdoors for the corporate clients. So think of course, 250 to 400 square foot smart tiny home on wheels, 4G, 5G cell phone coverage access, hyper access. Also with a vertical farm aspect in close proximity, of course, to provide farm table offerings, but also learning center option as well. So that vertical farm will provide, of course, high quality farm table, of course, options, of course, to our corporate clients that are there, like of say Meta, Amazon, Goldman Sachs, of course, on the likes, but also the learning center and the vertical farm will allow us to be able to introduce underserved communities to cutting edge ag technology and artificial intelligence, machine learning, and robotics that can foster gainful employment, of course, in technology. As we all know, of course, inner city youth, often, of course, don't have any type of exposure to technology, with the exception, of course, of their smartphone, right? And we'll be able to level the playing field. Also, the process of bringing the one thing, of course, I'll go ahead and say this from a personal standpoint. I often believe that the best things come from personal necessity. Everything which I'm working on is coming, of course, from personal necessity. The idea, of course, the company is called Reset, the hospitality ecosystem was born from the idea of several years ago during COVID. Both myself and partners' offices were closed as far as the WeWork, as far as part of attrition. We're dealing with a client overseas in Korea, and all of our offices were closed. They're part of the WeWork shutdown, and we had a client we speak to around 9:30 at PM during weeknight. I began calling around, of course, to the local hotels and asking, of course, to use a conference room for a couple hours. I said, Mr. Bruner, we can't assist you. We don't rent conference rooms out by the hour. It'll be $2,000 for 1 hour, and so on, of course, and so forth. We need 24-hour notice. Our best thing we recommend to do is to rent a hotel room and do your call from there. And I said, well, my business partner is female. I don't want to have a bed behind us as we're conducting, of course, an introductory call with some executives in another country. So fortunately, we were able to find a hotel and go upstairs in a quiet area and make it work. But we realized, of course, the fact that, after hours, there is no option for people, of course, to come together and do conference, of course, meetings if you don't already have some type of co-working membership. Breathers and the likes, again, they're only open Monday through Friday, 9 to 5. So we really, of course, huge, of course, underserved, of course, need in the marketplace. And, fortunately for us, the likes of some companies such as T-Mobile, one of our other partners, of course, Microsoft, and some members, of course, previously from Google and Fannie Mae see some value as well, and look to bring that out to market, ideally by the end of the course this year, the pilot. So stay tuned for that. Second thing I'm working on is an auto social club. I'm a car guy, like we all are, right? Fuel pumps through my veins here, and gasoline, etc. We're looking to bring the very first physical auto social club to the Baltimore, Washington area. So again, there's a huge Overwhelming, of course, need for a physical space inside the Beltway for people, of course, to get together with some high quality programming. We're already in some early discussions with some companies you may have heard of, such as Aston Martin, Bentley, Haggerty, Modern Luxury, and so on and so forth, with regards to being partners. And that should be an incredible, of course, space. And we were ideally looking to have it, of course, be water adjacent, opening in around or no later than 2025. Also working on an assisted living facility down in Central Florida. Also looking to bring the company to light called Kickback. So it's logistics, of course, shipping, underserved logistics shipping platform for aftermarket, of course, parts and parts coming out, of course, for vehicles. And then also I sit on about a dozen boards, including one in agave-inspired tequila brand, a rental car for some business, and I'm sure many more that that I'm missing right now at the present time. So to my portfolio company founders, I apologize to you. And then also Tandem Success, which is Tandem Consulting, is my boutique international consulting firm. We specialize in helping companies go from 0 to 1 to 1 to 3, but also help to work with companies come from other countries, come to America and enter the US market, right? So we help them to get a company incorporation, of course, set up, to ascertain and assess, of course, if they had set up C Corp and S Corp, for rare investment materials, get them ready for, like, let's say, Techstars, Y Combinator, and the like, interested, of course, the capital, system, of course, in manufacturing here, because they also have contacts, of course, at very different levels of government, from mayors to owners, and then also up to even higher levels of government programs and senators as well, and then also working on public-private partnership as well, as far as with our offering, because every 3 years, as far as for reset, we're going to look to take our home from off-grid to on-grid to support the housing vulnerable, as far as citizens, battered women, able to, of course, and veterans. Then so that's I'm bored you with that. Now I pertain, of course, to setbacks. Setbacks, I think, quite frankly, have been people, right, as far as business partnerships, right? So, during COVID, what I intentionally decided to, of course, to do is I decided to step away from every single company that I was a part of from a co-founder standpoint that I had not founded, right, and I had a majority share in. And the reason being is the vision was not mine, and because of the vision, of course, not being mine, and I come in, of course, later on, my ideas and inputs, of course, were being watered down. So I wasn't able to kind of really realize, of course, the potential of course, we're looking, of course, to do, right? So I say now, in regards to the company, which, of course, I'm a part of, I advise, I mentor, and so on and so forth. First and foremost, when you look at that was to find a company, try to have as many co-founders as possible. Yes, I said that, as many as possible. If you look at refer back to a company you've heard of called PayPal, there's a thing called the PayPal Mafia, half dozen of them. They've all left and gone on to create their unicorn decacorns, right? And I say it to say, in regards to, it's important to have as many, rather than being in a vacuum of ideas and narrow, to be able to have as much of a soundboard as possible. Plus also that makes it so you can delegate tasks, right? And have people be hyper focused on what they're good on, and be able to get at the gates, of course, much faster. So yes, that's very, very, very important, right? Secondly, in regards to that, the likability thing, of course, is incredibly, of course, important, right? You got to make sure, of course, you really do, in fact, of course, like and respect, of course, your people, and make sure that from day one, you guys are mutually aligned in regards to your medium and long term goals, right? So you got to make sure, of course, you understand. People say, "Why am I having talk now?" Do you want to IPO long term? You would like to IPO that company? We'd like to sell it to another person through private equity and so on and so forth. It's very, very important, of course, to have conversations, of course, very early on. When you even do you plan to raise capital, venture debt, equity, and so on and so forth, because those conversations can be very, very contentious and can destroy, of course, your company, right? And the manner, of course, you're looking to do it, the skill sets, and also who will be pitching, right? Because that great thing, ego often comes into play, right? And I say those who do because of hunger and grit. Those who don't because of ego and pride, right? So coincidentally, right here on the spot inside my pocket here, I have my guys, Todd Hughes, Ego Coin there, right? So I can't take, of course, credit for this. This is my guy, Todd Hughes, Brandon White, and James Smalls, of course, thing as far as observation in regards to the thing they do is called checking, of course, your ego before they get on, of course, every call, every meeting, of course, they do, every pitch, of course, every seminar. So, and I started saying, and I was saying what I said before I met them, but again, it just shows, of course, energy is real. We're very, very like-minded in that sense in regards to being mindful, of course, of egos, and being mindful of the fact that those who do truly do because of hunger and grit, and those who don't because of ego and pride. But to your point, and your question, in regards to the biggest lesson, definitely and surely, of course, has been in regards to partners, right? Because your business is a marriage, right? Whoever, of course, you decide, of course, to partner up with and do business with is, is often, of course, even tougher and more expensive, of course, in marriage, right? And you're spending more time often with them than your intimate partner and your romantic partner. So you do have to make sure, of course, you guys are on the same page. You enjoy, of course, your presence in their company, and you're continuing, of course, to build around that as well. And people, of course, understand what the roles are and are comfortable in regard to that. And also, quite frankly, and I've learned this only, recently in past years, don't be afraid to have those tough conversations, right? You have to be able to have them early and often with your partners, but also do it always in a respectful way and manner. And I always, of course, make a point to make a point that when you're having those type of tough talks, make sure, of course, you're leading, of course, with a compliment. Don't start with an insult, because by nature, we're going to check out if you lead, of course, with something negative and insulting. All right. If I come to you and I say, man, your beard looks horrible, but I like your suit, it doesn't matter what I say following. You're focused on the first, right? If I say, hey, great, it looks good on you. However, comma, you probably could have whatever, blah, blah, blah. Lead, of course, with the positive, and then follow, of course, with the awareness, not the ridicule. Awareness will always create much more sustained change than ridicule. Always.
So amazing. I mean, you just everything that comes out of you is just knowledge, facts, power, excellence. I mean, you are someone that we need around for a long time. And maybe the last two questions, if you still have time, this kind of, you're talking about the the life of have enough time for your partner or something. How do entrepreneurs like yourself, who are just such high achievers, able to balance their life, the family plus this? Do you just set time apart for just family on some days and work? And then what about the romance and the love in life? How does that factor into play? Because most entrepreneurs just get burnt out of work and they're done.
So it's a great question, right? I've had several, of course, business partners and founders, which, of course, I've advised over the years that have gone from encumbered to unencumbered while they've been building and scaling. So I think it's first thing to dial it back a bit. I think it's very, very important. We are all familial social creatures, right? We're not designed to be alone, period, bar none, right? But whenever we're finding, of course, a partner, it's very, very important to be able to temper expectations, right? In regards to, hey, I'm looking to build this. I myself in the past have been in relationships, of course, as an entrepreneur and business owner, where my previous partner says, I don't want you going to any events or business on the evenings. I want you home every day for 5 p.m. for dinner and no working weekends. That was like shackles to me, right? I was very, very limited in regard to what I could do, what I can execute, and what I can level up. I'm a firm believer in saying that real business happens outside the hours of 9 to 5 to Friday, right? Only thing that happens Monday through Friday, 9 to 5 is the processing of paperwork, right? And the follow up. That is it. Outside of the hours of Monday through Friday, 9 to 5 is when you really build rapport and do real business and people get to know you, right? So that's the thing in regards to that. Second thing is in regards to making sure, of course, the fact that, before you get involved in a relationship, you make sure that the person understands that you're working on this, you're building this, that you're aligned in regards to your commitments in regards to time. But then, of course, you are, in fact, of course, you're going to do date nights, etc. You take time for that. So I am presently in a relationship. I am encumbered. I make a point at least 2 days a week to do date nights, right? So I clear my schedule, go out and do something, of course, unique, get a dinner, movie, spend some time, whatever, of course, and so on and so forth, to make sure that, of course, that my partner, of course, understand they are, in fact, of course, appreciated, right? But it's also, of course, good for me, right? To totally be able to detach a bit and turn off that work brain a bit. Because even, of course, on Saturdays and Sundays, and we all know, we both yourself, myself, around here are based in Washington, D.C., one of the basic things when a person meets you is what do you do? Where do you work? Right. And that's all the time. That's events in the evening, that's the weekends, of course, and so on and so forth. So this upcoming weekend and Memorial Day weekend, I had some social, but I had some business social stuff going on this weekend as well. That it won't just be me relaxing. It'll be things that are benefiting and advancing the efforts, of course, of my business and of my portfolio businesses, of course, et cetera, and so on and so forth. But being very intentional, making sure you have a partner, of course, that is understanding of that and like-minded. Because, like I said before, I do in fact have a couple of business partners and co-founders, and also people that I've advised that hey, what happened to the person with? Oh, they didn't understand and respect lifestyle. They didn't understand why I had to be out in evenings, why I had to be up late working, why I couldn't be home by 5 o'clock or 5:30 for dinner every night, right? We just were not, of course, aligned. So fortunately, my partner, which of course I'm with now, family come from a family, of course, of business owners and entrepreneurs, of course, themselves, so they understand that. They grew up in a lifestyle. Often, if that's not something that your partner has been exposed to and is used to, it could prove to be problematic, right? And make sure, of course, the fact that you guys are in fact, of course, aligned in regards to what you're looking, of course, to build, but also make sure, of course, you're supporting them as well, right? If you're coming across and you have the appearance, of course, of you're looking, of course, to build yourself up and support with your dreams and your aspirations, it's never going to be good. Make sure you are, in fact, of course, saying, okay, when you work, how can I help you? How can I support you? What would you like to, who would you like to be around? Who would you like to meet? Practically be evaluated for your efforts, of course, and so on and so forth.
Wow, it's amazing. Well, I'm just so glad you're on the show. You get so many good facts and benefits. I mean, people need more of you. We got to produce a show around you. You're such an amazing person. So, for the sake of time, we're going to end with the last question. Success. What does success mean to you? What does it look like to you? How do you achieve it? And then also for people who are trying to achieve success, like some young entrepreneurs, how do they obtain that? What does that mean to you? What does it look like?
So I think success, like wealth, is all about our perspective, right? What I view as success, and people hear me say ad nauseum, is my legacy is in others, not in me, right? That is my success legacy. And I get that, of course, from my father. One of my father's favorite quotes to me as a young boy growing up was from Star Wars: "Join me, son, and rule the galaxy as father and son." Right? And he said that wholeheartedly as a young black kid growing up in the Bay Area, enamored, of course, with science fiction, reading Robert Heinlein books, living in proximity to the fictitious, of course, Starfleet Academy in San Francisco, where as a young boy growing up, he'd bring me home star machines, and we were lighting up rockets. And now at 65 years young in 2020, my father has recently founded a hypersonic drone startup company, right? First of a kind of its world. Will deliver payload and cargo anywhere in the world in 2 hours, right? So he's living, his dreams now, right? And carving out, of course, his legacy. And that's, of course, what I view, of course, as success. So, you know, my success is that very same thing, legacy, seeing how much of a positive and real impact I can have on as many hungry souls and minds that it possibly can, right? And as long as, of course, you're willing to put forth the effort and show me that you really are, ambitious and have a bit of hunger and drive, I'm willing, of course, to do what I can do, right? And do what I can, of course, to put you into said rooms and spaces that we can, in fact, of course, be successful. Because my entire ethos and MO modus operandi is I firmly subscribe to the abundance mindset and not the scarcity mindset, right? So I despise vehemently those who walk around, of course, with their Rolodex as far as kind of badge of honor around their neck in regards to, I know these people, I can do whatever, and so on and so forth, but they're not willing, of course, to share because that they feel that they're losing a portion of them. And that's very much a scarcity mindset, not an abundance mindset. Opportunity is limitless, right? It's boundless. There's more than enough for everybody to have, right? So I am never threatened by anybody. I'm never intimidated by anybody. I'm not saying I'm the smartest. There's always somebody bigger, faster, stronger, smarter than me. I'm aware of that, right? And that's what makes, of course, the journey so exciting.
Yeah, just amazing. Will, and you just, I can't agree with you more on some of the stuff you're saying. I think you've shared so much of your knowledge and time with us. Anything else at the end? This is kind of the end of our show. And anything you want to say? It's open-ended, words of advice, wisdoms to others, or people on how to connect with you, or anything else?
Of course. Well, words of advice, be mindful of environment, right? Energy, of course, is real. If you are in a bit of a course of rut and you're trying to go through a period, of course, of self-discovery, YouTube videos, IG reels, all that stuff, of course, are great. But in-person input and impact is much better, right? I often say, of course, when I first meet a person, if I can't meet them face to face, I want to see them via video because I want to see your mannerisms. I want to see your body language. I want to feel, of course, your energy. And I feel that when you do that, you can see a smile and the rest of course, are much more accelerated. So if you're in a bit of, of course, a rut, there's an incredible, of course, amount of resources, of course, out there that are free. Um, you know, email me. I will do my best, of course, responding, of course, in a timely manner. But what I encourage you, of course, to do or use, of course, some of the big ones, of course, out there that we all know, such as, of course, Eventbrite, right? Definitely, of course, use Eventbrite. Eventbrite, of course, is incredible. Also Meetup, which I know this guy here, and of course with Todd as well, and runs of course a big substantial course Meetup. And also quite frankly, Facebook, right? Facebook also is an incredible course resource, of course, for events, right? So going out, be around, of course, people that are, of course, like-minded, go in the business community, and find, of course, the thing that really, of course, motivates you. Because again, a job is something you have to do, and work is something you choose to. So go and find rewarding work. I will work until I die, right? I'm not saying that, of course, in any type of negative and a morbid, of course, way, but I'm obsessed with progress, right? I get great pleasure in contributing to the evolution, of course, of things, and I don't need to have, acknowledgement and my name here and so on and so forth, but just knowing that I contributed in some way, form, and or manner is more than enough, of course, for me.
Yeah, just amazing. With that, I think we're going to wrap up the show. Well, I'm so glad you're on our show. Thank you for your
Thanks for
knowledge.
having me.
I want to acknowledge you for what you do for the community and for the world and for everyone out around here. Is there anything we should be looking forward to in the next few months, summer, something that's going to happen around you? We want to know what's the next thing.
So, next big thing, of course, to have, and guys, I want you to get to hold me to this as well, is a book, right? So I've been looking at, and of course, and focusing, of course, on titles, of course, for a couple years. I think I've decided finally on my first book in my series, and it's gonna be called The Juggle,
Mm,
right? And it's gonna be called the Juggle because it speaks, of course, to why I say the four pillars, of course, of things, of course, in life to be able to execute, of course, at a high level, right? The relationship, of course, with yourself, the relationship, of course, with your friends, the relationship, of course, with your family, the relationship, of course, with your partner, right? So those four things, as far as juggling those things, as far as balancing, are the four things, of course, that are constantly, of course, juggling in order to be able to execute at a very high level, right? And it takes, of course, um, three things, of course, to be able to execute, sound mind, sound body, sound emotions. And people often forget, of course, emotions are the glue that ties it all together, right? So, you know, that's the juggle. So that's, of course, thing, of course, to look out for. And finally, just came up with a title, of course, and landed on it after years and years and hundreds, of course, titles, but the juggle.
sounds amazing. The Juggle sounds great. Coming out maybe the end of the summer, coming out this year.
If I'm able to self-publish, I got a few companies, of course, coming out. Let's just say in the next, give me around 12 to 18 months.
Okay.
You guys can hold me to that.
I'm going to hold you to that, Will. So you're the man. All right. Well, hey, thanks so much for joining the show. We look forward to having you again. And we can't wait to have more of you. So people can find you at the email I'll include above. Any websites or anything people can look up?
Of course. So William at tandemsuccess.com. You can also feel free to follow me on Twitter and or Instagram at ACAN, like Nancy, the number 8. T is in Todd, V is in Victor, E is in Echo. So A is in Apple, C is in Charlie, A is in Apple, N is in Nancy, the number 8, T is in Todd, V is in Victor, E is in Echo. So a California native. I'm a Bay Area kid through and through. That's what people always say. You're not from the area, right? California runs in my brains and runs through my brains and also in my veins, and that's the energy you get from me all the time. So, a California native, I can be followed at across all social media platforms as well.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Phil. You're the best. We can't wait to have you again on our show.
Thanks so much for having me. Have a good day, guys. Take care.
All right.